For 6 years, I worked as a government radar infrastructure inspector. Most people don't realize how much of the country's weather monitoring happens in places almost nobody visits. The radar stations themselves are usually built on remote ridges, mountain peaks, and isolated plateaus where they have a clear view of the surrounding region. Once installed, they spend years quietly scanning the sky while the public forgets they exist. My job was to keep them running. Most assignments were boring. I'd drive out to a station, spend a day checking cooling systems, calibrating sensors, replacing worn components, and filing maintenance reports before heading home. The stations rarely had permanent staff. Most were monitored remotely from centralized operations centers. Black Ridge was different. I first heard about it from another inspector during a training seminar. We were discussing difficult service locations when someone casually mentioned Station 47B. The conversation immediately died. Nobody said anything for several seconds. Then someone changed the subject. At the time, I assumed it was an inside joke. Months later, my supervisor assigned me to perform a scheduled inspection there. The work order described it as a remote mountain weather radar station located near the border of 3 states. Nothing unusual. The drive took nearly 5 hours. The final stretch followed a narrow service road that climbed through dense pine forest. Fog drifted between the trees despite clear skies above. The higher I climbed, the fewer signs of civilization remained. No houses, no power lines, no traffic, just forest. When I finally reached the summit, the station appeared through the fog. The radar dome stood on a concrete platform overlooking the mountains. Nearby sat a maintenance building, a backup generator compound, and a small operations office. The entire facility looked strangely temporary, as if someone had dropped it onto the mountaintop and forgotten about it. A man named Curtis met me outside. He was the station supervisor, at least officially. In reality, nobody seemed to know exactly what Curtis did. He wasn't an engineer, he wasn't a technician, yet every maintenance request from Black Ridge somehow passed through him. He shook my hand and helped unload my equipment. "You staying overnight?" he asked. "2 nights. His expression tightened slightly. "First time here?" "Yeah," he nodded. For a moment it looked like he wanted to say something else. Instead, he handed me a key card. "Operations room is down the hall. You'll find the station rules inside." I laughed. Every station has rules. Not these ones. The way he said it bothered me more than it should have. Inside the operations room, 6 monitoring stations displayed live weather feeds. The equipment was older than expected, but well maintained. Everything appeared normal. Until I noticed a laminated sheet taped beside the primary console. There were only 3 rules. If the radar detects a storm cell directly over the station after midnight, disconnect the primary feed immediately. Do not attempt visual confirmation of any weather event detected after midnight. If all monitors display the same storm pattern simultaneously, leave the operations room and wait exactly 10 minutes before returning. That was it. No explanation, no references, no emergency procedure number. Just 3 oddly specific instructions. I assumed they were local superstition. Remote facilities often develop strange traditions. People spend enough time isolated from the rest of the world, and eventually weird habits start forming. I asked Curtis about the rules during dinner. We sat in a small break room overlooking the radar dome. He barely touched his food. "How long have those rules been here?" I asked. "A while." "Why?" Curtis stared through the window. "You'll hear a lot of theories." "What do you believe?" He took several seconds to answer. "I believe every person who ignored them stopped laughing afterward." That was all he would say. By 11 o'clock, Curtis left the station. I was alone. The nearest town was nearly 4 hours away. Outside, fog drifted across the ridgeline. The radar dome glowed beneath floodlights like a giant white moon. I spent the next hour performing routine diagnostics. Cooling systems passed, power systems passed. Signal strength remained stable. Everything looked normal. At 12:14 a.m., Monitor 3 displayed an alert. Weather event detected. I glanced at the screen. A storm cell had appeared north of the station. Not unusual. Mountain weather changed constantly. I returned to my report. A few minutes later, Another alert appeared, then another. The storm wasn't moving. That caught my attention. Weather systems move, sometimes slowly, sometimes rapidly, but they move. This one remained fixed in place, centered directly over Black Ridge. I opened satellite imagery. Clear skies, no cloud cover, no precipitation, nothing. Yet the radar showed a severe weather formation large enough to trigger automatic warnings. I leaned back in my chair. The station suddenly felt much quieter than before. The hum of equipment seemed louder. The silence outside seemed deeper. I remembered the first rule. More out of curiosity than concern, I disconnected the primary feed. The storm vanished immediately. I reconnected it. The formation returned. Same location, same dimensions, same shape. I repeated the test twice. The result never changed. For the next 30 minutes, I ran diagnostics. Everything passed. Sensor arrays reported normal function. Calibration remained within tolerance. No faults appeared anywhere. The equipment genuinely believed something was there. At one point, I found myself walking toward the window. I wanted to see what the radar was seeing. Halfway there, I stopped. The second rule drifted through my mind. Do not attempt visual confirmation. I almost laughed at myself. Almost. What stopped me was the realization that I couldn't hear weather outside. No wind, no rain, no thunder, nothing. The radar was reporting a severe storm directly above the facility. The mountain should have been shaking. Instead, there was silence. Not ordinary silence. The kind of silence that makes you notice your own breathing. I stepped away from the glass. At 12:58 a.m., all 6 monitors changed simultaneously. The weather display zoomed inward. No command had been entered. The system was operating on its own. The storm expanded across every screen. The shape was unsettling, too symmetrical, not artificial exactly, just wrong, like something trying very hard to resemble weather. Then every monitor displayed the exact same image, not synchronized data, the same image, identical down to individual pixels. I immediately remembered the third rule. This time I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my flashlight and left the operations room. The hallway beyond was empty. Emergency lighting cast pale reflections across the floor. I checked my watch. 10 minutes, that was all. I leaned against the wall and waited. 3 minutes passed. Then I heard movement outside. Footsteps, slow, crunching across gravel. The sound circled the building, one complete lap, then another. Whoever or whatever was outside never approached a door, never stopped, never changed pace. The footsteps simply continued their circuit around the station. I found myself staring at the opposite wall. I had absolutely no desire to look through a window. At exactly 10 minutes, the sound stopped. I returned to the operations room. The storm was gone. The monitors displayed normal weather activity. Nothing appeared damaged. Nothing appeared unusual. The remainder of the night passed quietly. By sunrise, I had almost convinced myself there was a technical explanation. Then I reviewed the logs. Every alert had been recorded. Every anomaly had timestamps. The system genuinely believed the event occurred. When I submitted my report, headquarters responded 2 days later. The reply surprised me, not because of what it said, because of what it included. Attached to the message was a reference number, a historical incident classification. The category had existed for years, meaning I wasn't the first person to report it. The actual response was brief. Continue standard operating procedures, no equipment replacement required. That bothered me far more than a simple dismissal would have. Someone had seen reports like mine before, enough reports to create an internal classification. Yet nobody had ever explained why. Over the following months, I returned to Black Ridge 3 times. The phenomenon never appeared on every visit, only occasionally, which somehow made it worse. There was no schedule, no pattern, no seasonal connection. Sometimes months passed without incident. Then it would happen twice in a week. During my 4th visit, curiosity got the better of me. I started reviewing archived station data. Most records contained exactly what you'd expect: storm tracking, rainfall measurements, atmospheric scans. Then I found something interesting. Every occurrence shared one characteristic: the storm's shape never changed. Not slightly, not approximately. Exactly. A storm recorded 11 years earlier matched one recorded 3 weeks earlier. Every contour, every return signal, every measurement, perfectly identical. I had spent years studying weather systems. Nothing in nature behaves that way. Nothing. That discovery stayed with me. For the first time, I stopped viewing the event as a malfunction. Malfunctions create random errors. This wasn't random. It was consistent, predictable, repeatable. Months later, I was assigned to oversee a major communications upgrade at Black Ridge. The project required 3 consecutive nights on site. The first night passed uneventfully. The second did not. Shortly after midnight, the familiar alert appeared. The formation emerged over the station once again. This time I wasn't surprised. I watched quietly as the radar tracked it. Then something new happened. A secondary return signal appeared inside the formation. At first, it looked like interference, but interference doesn't behave like a tracked object. This did. The system assigned it altitude data. 5,000 feet. I sat forward. The object began descending. 4,800, 4,600. The movement was slow but steady. The radar automatically attempted classification. No match found. I checked aircraft databases. Nothing nearby. No civilian traffic, no military traffic, no helicopters. Nothing. Outside, the mountain remained silent. The object continued descending. 4,000 feet, 3,000, 2,000. Then the station lost communications. Every external connection vanished simultaneously. Satellite uplink, internet, radio, everything. The isolation felt immediate, oppressive. For the first time, Black Ridge felt genuinely cut off from the world. The radar display zoomed inward on its own. The storm filled every monitor. I watched concentric patterns ripple through the formation. The effect resembled waves spreading through water. Something moved between them, a dark region, an absence. The radar attempted classification again. No match. The object continued descending. 1,000 feet, 800, 600. My mouth had gone completely dry. I realized I was gripping the edge of the desk. The monitors flickered. For a fraction of a second, every screen turned black. Then text appeared. No visual confirmation available. I stared at it. The message wasn't part of any software package I knew, and I knew the software very well. A second later, something struck the outside wall. The entire building shook. Another impact followed. Then another. Heavy, measured, moving around the structure. The sounds were too powerful to be footsteps, yet that was exactly what they resembled. Each impact seemed to originate just beyond the walls, circling, slowly, methodically. The radar still displayed the descending object, 400 feet, 200, 100. The impacts stopped. Every monitor froze. The altitude reading reached 0. Then the storm vanished. Communications returned. The station resumed normal operation. No alarms, no damage, no evidence anything had happened. At sunrise, I conducted a full inspection of the exterior. The gravel surrounding the building was untouched. No tracks, no marks, nothing. I filed the most detailed report of my career. Unlike previous reports, this one generated a phone call, not from an investigator, from Curtis. I heard you had another event. How did you know? He ignored the question. Then he asked something strange. When the signal reached ground level, did you go outside? No. There was a long silence. Good. Before hanging up, he said one final thing. The people who wrote those rules weren't trying to protect the equipment. Then the line disconnected. I never spoke to him again. A few months later, I transferred to another division. Officially, the move was career advancement. Unofficially, I was tired of thinking about Black Ridge. For nearly a year, I succeeded. Then last week, curiosity returned. I accessed public weather archives covering the region. At 12:11 a.m., the formation appeared. Same location, same dimensions, same impossible geometry. The storm had not changed, not after a year, not after a decade. I compared it against archived records from 11 years earlier. The images matched perfectly. Last night I checked again. The formation returned. While reviewing the data, I noticed something I had somehow missed. A secondary return signal was present in every recorded event. Every single one. Descending slowly toward the station, always beginning at approximately 5,000 feet, always ending at ground level. The public feed disconnected before the final reading appeared. This morning I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject, no message, only an attachment. It contained a screenshot from Black Ridge. The storm was visible. The descending signal had reached 0 altitude. At the bottom of the image was a timestamp. The screenshot had been captured 12 minutes after the public feed went offline. Beneath it, someone had typed a single sentence. The storm is no longer above the station.